How to spot a disabled person faking. In this video, I'm going to take you through all the things you need to look for when you're looking to find out whether or not someone is or isn't faking. Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name's Eliza. I'm a disabled content creator from London who creates content all about disability awareness, LGBTQ+ positivity and lifestyle things every 2 weeks. And today we're going to be discussing how to tell when someone is faking being disabled. This is a comment that I get a lot and people often message me asking how you can tell if someone is faking, so I thought it was important to make a video. Right, I've got my lab coat on so you know that I'm qualified to be talking about this. Today we're going to be looking at different scenarios of people faking disability and pinpointing the part where it's obvious that they are not telling the truth. This is a very helpful skill to learn, so listen closely. Okay, let's dive into the first example. In this first scenario, we see a wheelchair user going about their day. Nothing looks too suspicious about this clip yet, apart from the fact that they look a little bit too young to be using a wheelchair, but we'll talk about that more later on. Okay, look closely at this next part. Did you see that? They very clearly just moved their leg. Let's rewatch that in slow motion, zoomed in, just in case you missed it. There. Okay, that is enough of that. This is a clear example of an ambulatory wheelchair user. An ambulatory wheelchair user is someone who uses a wheelchair but can stand or walk for short distances, but they need to use a wheelchair for multiple different reasons. These include energy limiting disabilities, which means that someone may be able to walk short distances but wouldn't have the energy to walk to the shops, for example. This is why they use a wheelchair. Similarly to how someone would drive somewhere that isn't in walking distance to them. Although this isn't the only reason that someone may use a wheelchair, they also can be used for a temporary measure too. For example, if someone has hurt their leg. They could also have a fainting condition, which means that it's dangerous for them to be stood up for long periods of time, or unstable joints, which means that they're just not able to walk very well. The world is so inaccessible to wheelchair users, and I would know. I am one, and it makes little to no sense that anyone would choose to use one if they didn't have to. The amount of times I've faced an inaccessible path or someone blocking my path that I've had to take a long diversion that means that I'm actually not saving that much time or energy anyway. Not to mention that wheelchairs are expensive. They cost more than a car and most people are actually forced to pay for them. People who don't need one, I'm sure, would rather spend their money elsewhere. I know I would rather spend my money elsewhere. I have my eye on many tops on pleasing. Moving on to the next faker on the list. Okay, this one requires the long game and a bit more patience to catch up to it, but it will be worth it, I promise. Here, the disabled person is seen going about their day using a walking stick. This could be to skip queues or to make sure that they get a seat on the train, who knows? But unfortunately, nothing is sticking out as faking yet. Okay, we're gonna fast forward a couple of days now and try again. Uh-oh, looks like the act is up. As we can see, the same person, only a few days later, carrying out the same task, is now miraculously doing it without a walking stick that they needed just a few short days ago. Okay, you might start to see a pattern here. Here is a great example of a dynamic disability, not someone who is faking. This is someone whose conditions will affect them differently day to day. Some examples of dynamic disabilities include MS, EDS, epilepsy, and even diabetes. Just like how everyone can feel better on some days and worse on others, it's no different for people with disabilities. If someone has had a really long week at work and has overexerted themselves, they might find that they need to rely on a mobility aid to get through their weekend plans. Yes, shocker, disabled people do go out and have social lives. This could involve using a walking stick or even a wheelchair. Similarly, if someone has had a chance to rest over the weekend, they might have more energy and not need to use their walking stick on the Monday, for example. This is for the disabled person to decide and them alone on how they use their disability aids, not for others to decide or others to judge. Quick break here while I talk to you about Patreon. Patreon is a platform where you can directly support creators financially, and in return you get loads of cool perks. I call mine the Radiant Rainbow Club. You get early access to YouTube videos, behind the scenes content, along with access to Patreon chats where you can meet like-minded people and chat about all sorts of things like sharks, which, by the way, are my favorite animals, if you could tell from my necklace. And at the moment I'm running a really cool offer where the first 60 paid members to join my Patreon get access to this lovely pin, which was designed by my spouse, and it gets sent to you completely for free. So if you want to sign up, check out the link in my bio below, and I can't wait to see you in the Radiant Rainbow Club. Okay, let's keep these examples coming. You've not got to look hard to see this faker. Here we see a perfectly healthy, able-bodied person heading towards the toilet, and if you're like me, you're expecting them to use the normal toilet. But just at the last second here, they make their way to use the disabled toilet, and it gets even worse. As they are unnecessarily using the toilet, an actual disabled person arrives and is forced to wait for the toilet. How disgusting. Oh, and get this, watch as they come out and they don't even apologize when they see the wheelchair user. It doesn't get much worse than this one, guys. Right? Wrong. Let's get straight into this one. This is a topic that I have covered a lot on Instagram and TikTok. Go and check those out if you want to see more of me. My handles will be on the screen at the end of the video. People who need to use the disabled toilet have all sorts of reasons for needing to, and they don't just include people with mobility issues. I get a ton of messages from people asking whether or not their disability qualifies them to be able to use the disabled toilet, and the answer I always give is, if you feel that you need to use it, then you should use it. Nobody can tell you whether or not you can or can't, and you don't owe anyone an explanation for a reason for using it. There are plenty of visible disabilities out there that require someone to use the disabled toilet. People with colostomy bags, diabetes, and an overactive bladder, for example. When it comes to wheelchair users, you should not feel bad if you leave the toilet and there is someone outside in a wheelchair waiting to use it. They do not take priority, as we don't know why someone else is queuing for the disabled toilet. If there is a queue for the disabled toilet, this is simply due to the lack of resources and not the fault of anyone in that queue. Before I was a wheelchair user, I was questioned all the time why I was queuing for the disabled toilet, and it made it a so much more stressful experience. However, if you are not disabled or do not need to use the disabled toilet for space, changing a child, gender safety, etc., and you are able to use the non-disabled toilet, then you should use them, as many disabled people need to use the disabled toilet due to urgency issues and are not able to wait long periods of time. There are also much less disabled toilets available, so if you don't need to use it, it's best if you don't. So this is the final clip left. Here, we're going to witness one of the most common and frustrating disability fakers out there. This one gets me really angry. Okay, we see a young couple entering this car park, and clearly they are looking for a space to park. It's an empty car park and they have the pick of the lot, but look where they're heading, towards the blue badge parking bays. Why on earth would young, healthy people need to park there? I think we need to stop the clip there, as I've seen all I need to see. I'm going to say this slowly so that it really sinks in. Disability affects everyone, no matter your age, gender, or ethnicity. The exact scenario that happened in this clip has happened to me on countless occasions, where I've pulled up in my car to the disabled bay only to see passers-by giving me dirty looks, which magically disappear when they see Michael, my spouse, getting my wheelchair out of the car. Disability affects everyone, but especially the elderly. So it makes sense that a large proportion of blue badge holders, at least here in the UK anyway, would be older people. But that doesn't mean that young people are not affected by it. If somebody places a blue badge in their car, you should not be thinking about whether or not you believe that they need it or don't need it. Leave them alone and just get on with your day, and we'll get on with ours. Even if somebody doesn't display a disabled parking badge, there could be a reason for this as well. They might be dealing with a temporary disability like a broken leg, or they might have simply forgotten it too. This carries on from what I was saying about disabled toilets. If there are not enough disabled parking bays, this isn't the fault of the disabled people using the bays, but the fault of the people that built the car park. Finally, disabled parking bays work on a first come, first served basis. So there is no hierarchy where certain disabilities deserve the space more than another. If you've been given a blue badge, you have just as much right to park in the disabled bay as anyone else who has one. But if you do park in one and you don't have a blue badge, you might get a ticket, so just be aware of that and keep an eye out on the signs, because I don't want to be saying, yeah, it's fine to park in them even if you don't have a blue badge, because you actually might get a ticket and be fined. So keep an eye on that, or be aware that you might be fined. And this only applies to people who need them. Okay, thank you, bye. So we've come to the end of the video. I pulled a bit of a sneaky with you at the title on the thumbnail, but I'm hoping that this video has shown that no, disabled people are most likely not faking it. More often than not, disabled people are faking faking being well, not the other way around. And accessibility benefits everyone. So why would we not want to live in a more accessible world? Disabled people exist, and the last thing that we need to be called is faking for just existing. So please, please, please don't go up to random disabled people and say that they are faking. Faking is very, very rare. And if someone is faking, calling them out isn't going to be helpful anyway, and it's probably just going to make them fake more and overall harm disabled people. So just keep your opinions to yourself. There we are. We've come to the end of the video. What did you think? What do you think when people call out disabled people for faking? Do you think it's unhelpful? And have you ever had any experiences where you've been called out for faking it? If you feel comfortable, please do let me know down below. Don't forget to check out the Radiant Rainbow Club, which is in the description below. I can't wait to meet you all in there. Thank you so much for watching. If you do want to keep up to date with me outside of YouTube, then all my handles are on the screen now. Have a great week. Bye.